What's up, y'all? Welcome back to BNL Reactions. Today we're looking at Kakashi versus Jiraiya by 6. So let's go ahead and get it started.
Money making season and being broke is treason.
Hello everyone, me and Striker are gonna talk about Kakashi versus Jiraiya, obviously like the title of the thumbnail says. We were just like literally just chilling and calling. We are just like, let's just spitball a video about this shit because I mean this isn't one.
Okay, so it ain't gonna be like a super thought out. They just gonna go by ear on this. Okay. See, normally I watch like Swagkage and Seththeprogrammer. I don't think they usually. Well, when Seth and Swag get together, they said they usually just treat it like a podcast and go off their memory. But yeah, we're gonna see if he going off memory. He better have some good arguments about whoever winning.
That a lot of people talk about, right? Like you don't see many people talk about Jiraiya versus Kakashi unless they're like comparing them in the pain arc or something like that.
Yeah, even though there's a good thematic push or metric to compare the two. They're both Naruto's mentors. You know, Naruto has two different narratives regarding surpassing the both of them. So there's definitely like a big thematic emphasis you can use to compare the characters in a battle.
Yeah, so
Kakashi stomps though.
Talk about just pain arc versus pain arc, that'd be kind of boring, right? Like they're both not.
Yeah, there's more to Naruto than the pain arc, yeah.
And they both just get slapped by pain, right? So we're gonna go over all of it, like standard versus battle format. You've seen everybody do it, right? Like we're gonna start at part 1, and we're gonna go all the way up to.
Now Kakashi part 1 loses, but Kakashi after the pain arc slaps Jiraiya, bro. Absolutely slaps him.
Everybody do it, right? Like we're gonna start at part 1 and we're gonna go all the way up to the end of shippuden. Maybe we'll do like Kashi and Koji versus like Kakashi at the end, boruto like at the end, but that's neither here nor there. So if we just get right into part 1, right? Obviously there's a few things that need to be addressed so we can even have this conversation. So yeah, the data book says Kakashi is the strongest ninja in Konoha. Me and Striker have our own contentions with this statement because there's just
the strongest
problems wrong with it, or there's many things wrong with it whenever you interpret it to mean like Kakashi is stronger than Hiruzen. Yeah, that's like the main issue. So Kakashi being above all the other Jonin is fine, right? Like that's perfectly okay. He can be like a little bit stronger than Guy. He's like stronger than Asuma, Kurenai, Anko, all those people. That's whatever. But when you say Kakashi's stronger than Hiruzen, then things get kind of a little bit screwy, right? Because
yeah.
You have to get into like, okay, how are we going to define stronger or strongest ninja in the village? You know, what is it in terms of if he's stronger than him in like, you know, is he faster? Does he just hit harder? Because
does he have more techniques and stuff?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Which obviously it can't be he has more techniques, because he knows all of them.
Yeah.
Every technique in Konoha, at least according to the data books and like some lore that Orochimaru gives him.
The professor.
Yeah, the professor who knows all jutsu. He knows the 8 gates, the mind transfer. He knows everything.
Yep, he knows how to become the Jinchuriki and everything. Kill Beast Ball, all that.
It can't be in terms of like who fears who, right? Because we know that Kakashi gets immensely scared of Orochimaru to the point where the only thing Kakashi can do when he runs into Orochimaru is literally just envision his head being cut off and like rolling away. And then we even get like some confirmation later that I'll get into that as we go.
I forgot about that.
When Hiruzen runs into Orochimaru, he's not envisioning his head getting cut off, and he can actually engage with him. And you can even imply that Kakashi's like extremely scared against Orochimaru because he starts charging up a Raikiri before he even lifts up his like headband to reveal his Sharingan. Right, like he's like acting preemptively. He's not fighting how he should be.
Yeah, the infamous Chidori that can cut through anything, and he's getting like scared to like this is probably the most scared we've ever seen Kakashi in the series. So he's definitely like Kakashi in the data book is also just stated capable of seeing your hidden potential as well. So it's not
what the heck. The data book is hyping Kakashi up, bro.
Just stated capable
it's crazy.
Of seeing your hidden potential.
Hold on, let me see. It says moreover Kakashi, who owns a narrow analytical ability and eye power to see through people's latent ability. Wow, he really can't see your freaking potential. The data book is hyping this boy up
as well. So it's not like I don't know, it was like an edgy debater might be like, oh, Kakashi was just getting mind hacks because of killing intent, like Sasuke did. But no, Kakashi can see power. The Chidori can cut through anything apparently, and he's still getting fear hacks this badly. And also, it's interesting to note that in regards to Kakashi getting possibly fear hacks by Orochimaru's killing intent, because it's actually stated in the fan book that Kakashi retrained his body. He did the rock climbing training in order to gain more power, because after he saw Kabuto and Orochimaru, he was like, oh, I need more power, so I gotta train. And as we all know, Kabuto in part 1, in basically every data book description, any random like magazine statement, anything like any supporting material for the anime,
they compare it to Kakashi,
that he rivals Kakashi.
Yeah,
the whole thing about it is just like Orochimaru has this Kakashi level spy on his side.
Yeah.
That's just like infiltrating the leaf in these other villages to like gain this upper hand. That's why Kakashi needs to train on top of the threat of Orochimaru. So
yeah,
it's really just like there's nothing implying that Kakashi is actually stronger than these people. It's just like a misinterpretation of a scan. Like even if you want to take like the Raikiri thing super serious, right? Like super literal, like Kakashi can cut through anything with his Raikiri. It would literally just mean like Hiruzen and Orochimaru and them are so fast that they could just like blitz Kakashi and cut his head off like he envisioned.
Something like that.
Right. And then obviously something like that is super relevant to Jiraiya, because the data books say that Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Hiruzen and Tsunade, well, not really Tsunade like later on in her life, but and Tsunade like in her prime, they're all like around the same level, right?
Yeah.
So if they're all around the same level and Kakashi's scared of one of them and he needs to train to beat one of them, and he's like, you know, weaker, or not weaker, but he's like the same level as Orochimaru's like underling, obviously he shouldn't be as strong as Jiraiya. There's even other things like
that makes sense.
Is supposed to be the strongest one in the village. We get that statement from Iruka, and then when Hiruzen dies, the next person up to be Hokage is
Asani.
Yeah, and Jiraiya knows of Kakashi's power, right? That's why he leaves Naruto in his hands. He thinks he's capable, blah, blah, blah. He knows of Kakashi's power, yet he still thinks like after that, oh, well, why don't we get Tsunade? He's not like, oh, let's get Kakashi. He's right down the street. So, I mean, it's really just implied like at this point in the series that Kakashi's...
he's a really good soldier.
Not at Sani level.
And I think the icing on the cake for this is that Orochimaru sort of like opens the door for like, oh, Kabuto, if you want to be trainee, like you can't really do anything because he's Kakashi level. Right, which I feel like ultimately cements this idea that the Sannin are way above Kakashi, in the sense that Orochimaru, the big bad villain, sees Kakashi level as a sort of meme.
So the thing about it is Kabuto's thinking about that statement again, even while Orochimaru is like super weakened. So you can also imply that Kabuto doesn't even think he can beat weakened Orochimaru and with his like Kakashi level power, and he's got like the chakra pills on top of that like let you fight for days, give you like crazy stamina and all that. And
part 1 ain't looking good for Kakashi.
I think it's pretty clear from that in part 1 that Kakashi just cannot beat Jiraiya, right?
Yeah, I feel like everyone generally should agree with that.
Yeah, it's like the big three narrative, like the big three Sannin, and then there's just like Jonin and Kakashi, right? It's just like, you know, Jiraiya is just stronger at this point. So we get into part 2. Now I know people hate data book stats. I hate data book stats for sure. I think they're individualistic, but that works with this argument. So if you look at data book 2 and data book 3, from the end of part 1 to volume 43, Kakashi did not get stronger at all. His data book stats literally did not change at all. So if they're individualistic, it should apply just fine, right? Like obviously if I was talking about like Kakashi stats versus guys, I wouldn't compare them this way, because if you compare them that way, you get conclusions like Kid Neji is faster than Hiruzen, which I mean, come on. Neji just got blitzed by Kakashi that we just talked about as weaker than Hiruzen. Obviously just not the case.
Recognize that in the third data book specifically like references the stats, and it's called the Shinobi progress chart, where they show the stats from the previous data books and show how they've grown and how they are as they stand. They even talk about how they can change at any moment, basically, because people are always going stronger. So like the data book itself is specifically presenting this idea that the stats like at least like are valid if you interpret interpret them individually.
With Kakashi not getting stronger, I mean, you can sort of interpret from there that stats wise, the battle does not change. Like Kakashi and Jiraiya, like Jiraiya is still going to be beating up Kakashi. Now, where it does,
Kakashi doesn't win until after the pain arc.
Probably gotten smarter because we know Kakashi, in between the two data books, he's completed like a few more S rank missions. Obviously, he knows Kamui now, so he's a bit more experienced. He definitely has more stamina, right? Because in part 1, he says he uses 4 Raikuris a day, and then in part 2, he uses 6 on Kakuzu, and he's not fatigued at all. And I'm pretty sure he uses more jutsu than just the Raikuri, so we definitely know he got more stamina, but stamina is not a stat in the data book, right? So it's not like that could have been upped or anything. With Kakashi getting more stamina, maybe he can, like, I don't know, dance around Jiraiya a little bit more, and like, I don't know, maybe try to figure out like a weakness in him or something like that.
It's really weird because part 2 presents to us a lot more evidence in favor of Jiraiya, at least early on, because we have the infamous Rasen Shuriken that killed the painkiller Kakuzu, which, you know, there's a whole narrative built in about how Naruto surpasses Kakashi with the Rasen Shuriken now. And during the pain arc, where they're like, Naruto trained for Sage Mode, Naruto doesn't agree to do Sage Mode until he hears that he can surpass Jiraiya with, which would imply that he doesn't think he's stronger than Jiraiya now, and he's only seen base Jiraiya. So
yeah, because obviously, like, they're telling him about Sage Mode at that moment, so he obviously hasn't seen Jiraiya do it at all. Like, it's not like Jiraiya is training Naruto and he's like, all right, look at this, and he just goes Sage Mode and starts like beating him down. Obviously, Sage Jiraiya would destroy base Naruto. It's just that
he also doesn't Paw is, and you know, Jiraiya sort of needs Paw to do Sage Mode. So
yeah, Naruto hasn't seen Sage Mode. He's weaker than base Jiraiya, and therefore Kakashi is as well. So it's like, okay, even if you don't want to think, or even if you don't want to agree that Kakashi is weaker than Rasen Shuriken Naruto, you at least have to agree that they're somewhat comparable, because Kakashi, I mean, he literally says that. He says like, you're like approaching my level, so they're like somewhat comparable. He also like beats Kakuzu, which Kakashi couldn't do, even though it was like a weaker Kakuzu, right? Obviously, like, Kakashi fought Kakuzu with all 5 of his hearts, but it's less like Naruto killed how many, 3 hearts of Kakuzu at the same time, or is it
if you include like his regular body's heart, then that was 3.
So Naruto's just at Kakashi's level, or a little bit stronger, maybe even a little bit weaker, doesn't matter, still weaker than base Jiraiya. So Jiraiya is probably still taking it here. The main thing we could see about Kakashi winning this is maybe if he were to like get a Raikiri off, because Jiraiya, he's not all like a brute force fighter. It's not like,
I mean, obviously if Kakashi hit him with a Raikiri, with a Chidori, you know what I'm saying, it'll do damage, but it's just not looking good, especially with Sage Mode. Like, Sage Mode, he can predict all that stuff coming. Like, you gonna be able to feel the nature energy and all that stuff, basically sense what you gonna do. Like, it ain't gonna be looking good. He can basically keep his eyes closed too and fight you, because Sage Mode lets him feel energy and all that stuff, so he ain't gotta look at your Sharingan. He ain't gonna fall for that trap. Like, it's not looking good, man. I mean, if Kakashi connects, then sure, you can take him down. You can take Jiraiya down, but it ain't looking good. I'm telling you, it's not until after the pain arc that Kakashi even wins, into the war arc specifically.
Gonna run out to Kakashi, speed blitz him, and take him out with a Rasengan. So
he's a bit more tactical, and it's not like, and he's nothing like Tsunade, who we can just directly say, oh, she does a big punch, her durability is that powerful. Right? He likes to use a lot of jutsus to be powerful.
Yeah. So like I said earlier, where Kakashi maybe got like a little bit smarter, a little bit more stamina, maybe he could like dance around Jiraiya a little bit and then get him into a spot where he can actually hit him with the Kamui. But that's kind of like it's valid, right? Like, I could see Kakashi doing something like that, but it's kind of like, you know, putting your controller in his ass, right?
Yeah. If you do that for Kakashi, you should do the same for Jiraiya, and Jiraiya just has more options. A mud swamp thing that I don't think Kakashi's like, we don't know if Kakashi's ever dealt with anything like that. He can like seal you into other dimensions with his toes apparently, if you use the data book. So like, and this is before Kakashi can even use Kamui on himself, so he's definitely not getting out of that.
Nope. He has Sage Mode. There's Frog Song, right? Frog Song, like, take out pain. Obviously that shit's gonna like destroy Kakashi. So Jiraiya just has so many ways around Kakashi, like even comparing their performances against Pain. Like Pain's clearly just not taking Kakashi seriously. He's just dicking on him, right? Like Pain, he's just beating Kakashi up. Kakashi does like scare Pain enough to where Pain has like thinking in his head like, oh, just to be safe, I'm not gonna get near this guy. But it's just because like Kakashi's crazy tricky and all that.
Yeah, it's just like a cautious thing, because he did. You can technically say he did the same with Jiraiya as well.
Yeah,
where he didn't like immediately use all the paths and like kept them hidden until after his jutsu was done. And you know, Kakashi copied 1,000 techniques specifically. It makes sense to not like risk anything, because Pain doesn't know what jutsu Kakashi might pull out, so it makes sense.
Yeah, so just to like wrap up on this part, at Pain arc at like beginning of Shippuden, it's really just like, okay, Kakashi may be able to get a W, but like maybe 7-8 times out of 10 is going to Jiraiya, right?
Yeah.
So if we move on to the war,
that's fair.
Now we get like maybe Kakashi's like he's up there, right? So just to like kind of dunk on him again, I guess for the last time of the video. Not that I like dunking on Kakashi, I love Kakashi, but him fighting Obito is just nothing. Like it's pretty clear Obito's holding back. So like aside from Obito not using his MS, obviously he's not going to be slipping through things because they're literally in Kamui, but he doesn't have his MS on, and we know that your MS makes you faster and stronger. And I'll just bring up like one example. So in the war arc, we see base Naruto and base Sasuke fighting alongside each other after Sasuke comes back, so he's gonna be Hokage, all that. And then Naruto turns on KCM, Sasuke turns on EMS. We know KCM makes you much faster, and Sasuke is still relative to the like master KCM Naruto. So we know the MS makes you faster. Obito's not using his MS on Kakashi, as well as the fact that he's literally trying to let Kakashi like stab his heart out. So Kakashi beating on Obito, not that impressive.
Yeah, and like Kakashi's only real feat, is, like without any Naruto amps, is fighting the Edo Jinchuriki, who I'm sure a lot of people might agree, me and Six do, are characters that are weaker than Part 1 Hiruzen. So you know how that goes.
They may have like some speed on them because of like some B stuff, but they're definitely like weaker than Part 1 Hiruzen. So maybe you could say like Kakashi can like, since he can react to them obviously on with his 3-tomo, that this time he could actually get Jiraiya with the Kamui, and it's a lot more probable this time. Or maybe he could like slam a Raikiri into his chest or something like that. Now later in the war, it's just blatant Kakashi slaps him, because
very blatant.
Kakashi and Casey and Minato, after Kakashi gets like his resolve back, he gets patched up in like the Kamui dimension and all that. Kakashi and Casey and Minato, when they're fighting against Zetsu, they're relative. Literally, they like rush at Zetsu at the same time.
Well, hold on. To be fair, Naruto did give everybody a chakra boost when he arrived on the war. He did pat everybody on the back, give them a whole chakra boost with the cloak and everything. So if it replenished, so it's basically like popping a sensu in a way. If it replenished your chakra like that, so he might actually be a little bit amped too, because if it's enough to replenish you, it might be enough to go over your chakra limit as well. So it could be like a small amp. So he could actually be amped by Naruto in this position during the war arc.
I didn't get Zetsu. They're relative. Literally, they like rush at Zetsu at the same time, and they're just relative. So I mean, from there, it's just like, come on now. Jiraiya thinks he pales in comparison to just base Minato. So at that point, Kakashi just like, you know, Raikiri to the chest, mud wall, some shit. He's just killing Jiraiya. And then it just gets worse from there. Like DMS Kakashi, like,
oh yeah, it's a wrap.
Doing what is Jiraiya going to do?
I'll tell you what he's going to do. So in the third data book, it stated that Jiraiya has the fastest Sage Mode attack, meaning he's faster than Sage 6 past Naruto. Meaning he would blitz DMS Kakashi.
So you know, Striker, actually in the anime, it is stated that Jiraiya says Naruto would not surpass him in 100 years. So this is actually consistent. Like Jiraiya says to Urashiki, even celestial beings cannot beat Sannin.
That was obviously a joke for those who might not catch on. That statement covers up to the 43rd volume, as Six mentioned way earlier in the video.
Yeah.
And Sage Naruto in the Pain arc doesn't even exist in context of that data book. So
yeah, and we all know Sage Naruto has surpassed Jiraiya. That much is stated. Yeah. So Koji versus Boruto Kakashi, that fight kind of happened, right? Koji kind of implies like,
hold on, wait. I haven't seen Boruto. I don't know who Koji is, so I ain't trying to get spoiled or nothing. So yeah, y'all. If y'all like this video, leave a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Trying to get to 1,000 subs, and I'll see you on the next video. I'm out.